So come to find out, Governor Newsom, the governor of California, is taking steps to criminalize unsolicited offers to those whose homes just burned down, I believe in the Altadena area and Pacific Palisades. I think there's a more dubious reason this is happening, and it doesn't have to do with the goodness of his will or the kindness or anything like that, because we've seen the government doesn't do any of that, right? If it did, we would have had the reservoirs filled, but again, people call that conspiracy theories that they were filled. The fire hydrants wouldn't be running dry, but again, people consider that a conspiracy theory. So there's a lot behind this, right? But if you have a government that's known for at least 30, 40, 50 years that you basically live in a fire zone and has done nothing to reinforce our structure, but has taken steps to, let's say, give firefighting equipment to Ukraine and not invest in its own system, something's going on, right? We're investing in all these people that shouldn't be here legally, but not in our own system. The foundation, the people, the taxpayers that pay the money to sustain the system. Before we even get deeper into this, one of the most important things you should always remember is that President Reagan himself said, one of the worst things that could ever happen is the government saying, we're here to help. And there's a reason for that, right? They're not here to help. They're not here to help those people whose homes they had burned down. If they did, then they wouldn't just cut a check like Biden did today for $770 and say it's a one-time check. Like, any of that's ridiculous, right? Nobody needs that check. Somebody who's in charge and leading the government needs to tell these insurance companies, listen, you want to do business here? You have to insure people. And if the insurance companies say, well, we can't, it's too expensive, you got to let us charge, then something between the government and these insurance companies has to be figured out. It can't come at the cost of everybody else who's paying into the system, who's essentially floating this government and floating these businesses. Something has to give where it's given back to the people that pay taxes, and that's not happening. So I hope these fires lead to one good thing, and it's an awakening of people in California for what they're voting for. Because what our leadership has done, from the fire department to the governor, is unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And my home luckily didn't burn down, and I can see this. I can only imagine what the people whose homes burned down are feeling at this very moment. The interesting part about this is that he's going to criminalize the behavior of unsolicited offers for homes that burnt down. I think this coming year is going to be a very harsh economic crash in reality. And let's just say not necessarily an economic crash, but a harsh reality to us as Americans, the average people, the middle class that isn't there anymore, those people that are kind of living day to day. And I think this is why Newsom is trying to pass these laws to not sell these homes for cheap. Not homes, sorry, let me correct myself, the land. Because what can happen is the value of the neighborhoods surrounding this and the areas and the mystique and the prestige of these areas will drop the tax level completely down. These areas that are funding all these other like government programs like helping the homeless when they're not really helping the homeless, right? They're filling their pockets and dribbling down about 10% of that money to the homeless, or helping illegal immigrants instead of focusing on the problems that we have to deal with here first. Listen, you can help people when they need, but you have to help yourself first. So here's the thing, right? So let's say all of these homes, like in the Pacific Palisades, the land that is, and in Eaton Canyon, over in Pasadena, these lands are sold for way under value. Again, that's capitalism, right? You can make whatever offer you want. If somebody's willing to accept your offer, that's what the going rate is. But that in itself, if that kind of behavior happened where people got to pay very low amounts of money, let's say developers, and buy up crazy amounts of land, they would make a crazy amount of profit at the cost to the taxpayers, because that land evaluation would drop. Because when an assessor comes into your neighborhood to see what kind of taxes you're going to pay each year for your property, they take into account the streets. They take into account the type of amenities you get. They take account the schools in the area. They take into account what the neighborhoods are like, the value of the properties. And what are these properties worth when there's no homes on there? There's no trees around there. There's no infrastructure. Everything's collapsed. What's it worth? Nothing. And that affects everything. Now imagine these major economic areas, centers for the wealthy, just crashing. that could set a foundation of real estate around in those areas to follow, which again, it's not poor neighborhoods that are surrounding those. It's like a trickle down effect. And as all of that crashes, what would happen in California would reverberate all the way through the rest of the United States and usher in a terrible real estate economic crash. Our country, our government, the value of our government, our dollar, is heavily based on what we as people can produce and consume and the value of our land. Now, you take 1/3 of that away, you're crashing an entire market, and that's going to have an effect. And I think that's what he's actually trying to do here. Governor Newsom is trying to step in and trying to stop a very, very fast decline in the value of real estate because of what it could do to every other market. He's not here to help people. If he was here to help people, there would have been steps taken to prevent this. And of course, terrible things always happen. But we've, as a society, as a community, have been here a long time. We've been paying a lot of taxes into the system for our infrastructure to just terribly fall apart like it has when we need it. I mean, this is unacceptable. And there's a lot at play here. Anyways, I wanted to just share my ideas on this whole criminalization of unsolicited offers. It's ridiculous, right? Especially considering the way California itself has been actually prosecuting criminals that have been causing violent crimes and robberies and theft. It's just a laughing, ridiculous thing that's coming out of Governor Newsom's mouth.